I feel like this is something I probably should have started doing a long time ago, but I'm a master of procrastination, and I kind of actually already did do it a long time ago, long time ago, but I never really dove in as much as I'm going to on this time around. But I just know that I have a story that needs to be told, and I figured this is the best way to do it. It's 2018. So, my name is Jaron Ikner, and this is my visual memoirs. Hope you enjoy it. I think that my first real memory is actually of me in the hospital getting my stomach pumped. Specifically, them putting the tube up my nose and me looking over and seeing my mom. Apparently, I had drinking bug spray. This is apparently when I was like 3 years old. And I don't know, I think that kind of sets the tone of my life in the sense that, one, I'm extremely lucky. I'm an extremely blessed and lucky child. When I say child, I mean child of the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But I also do a lot of dumb shit, and I make bad decisions. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not as successful as people expect me to be at this point. Because I oftentimes just make the wrong moves, or just don't do it right. And it's not to say that I'm not talented, or that I don't have the drive or the patience. It's just that, I don't know, I guess I just fuck up a lot. I try to be honest about that as often as I can, because especially in this day and age, a lot of people believe that, especially with social media, that it's all about creating this perfect world for others to see. When you go on someone's Facebook timeline, you just see them posting the pictures of their families and their vacations, and like that's not how life works. Like, life doesn't really work that way. Like, for me, like, it's a constant struggle is to constantly be able to break even. And, you know, of course we got to celebrate, scream our accomplishments, and, you know, whisper our failures. But I don't think we can grow unless we know what it's like to fail out loud and fail forward. That's kind of been the meaning of my life. And I think that people in my life have seen my mistakes and have learned from it. But yeah, my life is basically this like a series of mistakes kind of looped together. And during those in-between times, there's a dopeness. But it all works out in the end. I kind of believe that the universe always has a plan for you. I just kind of hope it works out for me. Me as a multimedia artist, I do videography, I do photography, I do rap, obviously, make my own music videos. I'm pretty much 100% self-made. As a result, I've learned a lot from my failures, and I've learned a lot from, you know, drinking the bug spray and getting your stomach pumped and knowing again not to ever do that again. It's pretty much like the first lesson I ever learned as a kid was like, hey, here's death presented to you in a package. We get you this close to it, and we'll see how you operate from there. And I think from there, I've always kind of had like a happenstance perspective on life. I kind of believe that, you know, our conscious is bigger than our bodies and bigger than this realm. And even if I did die there as a 3-year-old, awesome bug spray, you know, I think I would have transferred over to a different reality and eventually would have continued on. But these are all just little blips in the whole grand scheme of what our consciousness is in this world. And really, it's just my goal to appreciate every moment that we have. And that sounds like super spiritual and kind of like even pretentious and hippie-like, but that's kind of how I feel. Like, I'm not trying to like really question anything anymore. I feel like when I was, especially in my early 20s, when I was, you know, doing a lot of drugs and wilding out in the streets and thinking that I had the answers, I think that like I really felt that I had to question everything and be like, well, why is this way? Why is this way? And then, I mean, I'm 33 years old now, and I kind of stopped asking and just kind of just receiving from the universe. When I moved to Tucson after my father died when I was 8 years old, I was thrusted into a brand new world where I was the only black kid in my neighborhood. And even in my class, when I first started going to school over at DeGrazia Elementary, and that's kind of how the whole black one image started, because I was that black piece of cotton in the entire pile. And I did kind of fall into stereotypes, and I did kind of like play into the role of the token black kid that was built for me. And, you know, when you're a young kid and you're trying to find acceptance, it gets hard to, you know, find what's really you. Which this day, even to this day, I don't really know what really me is. Still trying to figure that out. I just remember when I got into high school, and the first day of school as a freshman, I ran into one of the homies that I went to Bible study with every Wednesday. And he was like, yo, lunchtime, come over to this table and come kick with all the black kids. And I was like, okay, cool. So like, I did. So my freshman year, like I hung out with all the black kids. There was only 15 of us in the entire school. And for whatever reason, we felt the need to gather as a group every day at lunch and just kind of like represent for all the black people, because we were all dressed, except for me. I mean, I was dressed really weird in hindsight, but the black kids in my school were dressed like, you know, hip hop black kids in the 90s. Baggy jeans and cool kid clothes. I was wearing hand-me-downs to my brother, as well as whatever my mom could buy over at the base. Sometimes I was rocking Genco jeans. I just didn't fit, but I tried to fit, and eventually they accepted me for who I was. But even then, like, by the time I hit sophomore year, I wasn't hanging out with them anymore. And it had nothing to do with like me resenting it or anything like that. It just was about feeling comfortable. So I hung up away, like around the corner, around the breezeway, and kind of hung out with like, you know, my white neighbors that I saw every day. And that's kind of also at the same time I got heavily into drugs. But we'll save that for the next chapter. But I think the point is that I'm not trying to say that what I did with my freshman year with hanging out with the black kids was a mistake. But it definitely wasn't me being true to myself. But I learned from that. And even to this day, like, I find myself second guessing who I am and falling into situations where it's like, well, you know, all the cool kids are doing that over there. And, you know, you still want people to smile at you, and you still want to feel that love. And so you might try and go do whatever the cool kids are doing. But as I get older, I begin to realize that, like, it's not really about the acceptance of my peers, but rather the acceptance from within. The acceptance from within, if I could talk straight. Yeah, I don't know. And the hardest part about failure and acceptance from within is that they don't really mesh very well. It's really hard to be right within when you're failing outside. And that's kind of been my struggle. That has led me to fall into like bouts of depression and anxiety, other mental health stuff that has kind of fucked up my career in a lot of different ways, because I've always second guessed myself in certain situations instead of just going all in. And usually I'm ahead of the curve. You can ask all my friends when it comes to like my sound or like the way I operate or the things that I do. I'm always ahead of the curve, but I just never push myself enough to the level where people really like fuck with it. And I think that's because I don't fuck with it after a certain point in time, because all these outside sources begin to boggle my mind, and I'm start thinking about the next move instead of focusing on the current move. And when you're someone like me and you do so many different things, from videography to photography, and you see all these different people doing things that you do better than you, because that's what all they do, it becomes even more disheartening, because it's like, well, why would I go shoot that when I can go get so-and-so to shoot it and do it better than me? But then it kind of defeats the purpose of who I am. And I don't know. The point is that you can't let failure shut you down. If anything, you have to fall forward and fail forward. I think I just now learned this not too long ago, even when I had the birth of my child. Failing forward is the best way to live. But we'll get more into that later. That was chapter 1 of my visual memoirs. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more tales from my mind, my soul, and my heart. Peace.